Welcome to Fantasy Football Hub. Today I'm joined by Wes, aka FPL Heisenberg, to give you a slightly different team for the upcoming game week. Obviously, a lot of managers are on their free hit, but of course, some of us aren't as well. So what me and Wes are going to do in this video is give you a slightly differential draft for the free hit, while also covering some good players that would just be solid picks anyway, even if you're not utilizing the chip. We've not really set any parameters for this team, Wes. We're kind of just going to do it as we go along. We've got some picks that we've thought about ourselves. But yeah, very interested to see some players that you might be picking in this team that aren't in the template free hit teams.
Yeah, exactly that. And we didn't want to go all out super differential for the sake of it and like ignore, some of the really good captaincy options. We still want, some of the main ones in there, but we want a good solid 6 or 7 people that are outside of that sort of free hit template. Yeah, so it's going to be fun.
Yeah, I think we've decided that we don't want to go completely differential and make a silly team that no one would ever pick. So this is going to be a reasonable team, but yeah, as you say, 6 or 7 players outside the norm. Okay then, Wes, do you want to start us off with the goalkeeper?
Yes, so the goalkeeper, and again, this takes up a valuable Arsenal slot, but remember, we've been a bit differential here, so I'm going to go for Ramsdale in goal straight away. And again, also, for when you're watching, we might get to the end of this and we might tweak it about a bit as well, so let's see.
I really like the Ramsdale pick. Can you explain why you've gone for Ramsdale, covering that Arsenal defence? Yeah,
exactly. Southampton at home, and because we are going a bit differential, it's a way of getting that Arsenal clean sheet sort of covered. And he's not bad for the save point potential as well, I think. And, should he get us, I don't think there's much chance of bonus, but yeah, it's just there. Southampton at home. And if you look at the other goalkeepers this week, he's as good as any. In isolation, Ramsdale would be really up for debate this week, but I think he's not in many people's free hit teams because everyone wants essentially Martinelli, Saka, Jesus, for example. That's quite a common one.
Which I completely understand, and there is upside there in that fixture, of course, but it's pretty obvious. You look at the fixtures, there are quite a lack of clean sheets there, to the eye anyway, prediction-wise. Arsenal seems a really good one. And is it a little bit short-sighted to just go with 3 attackers when there's a clean sheet staring you in the face? I'm not entirely sure. All right, let's move on to the defence. Now, I want to talk about this man. He's obviously not a differential, but Alexander-Arnold, I think, is the sort of player that just has to be in every team. So it's worth just mentioning him anyway. We're not going to be silly and ignore obvious picks like this that are just, locked in everyone's free hit draft.
Yeah.
The reason why I want to speak about him is because I think he's one of the best transfers in for this game week if you're not on the free hit draft. If you're not using the free hit chip, right?
Yeah, and the frustrating thing about being on a free hit is you can't actually make a transfer to get him for the long term. You have to only have him on the free hit, and then if you want him next week, you're gonna have to transfer him in again.
Yeah,
or wait till. I think my plan for the future is to probably get him in 34. But yeah, if you're not on a free hit, then you should definitely be getting Trent because he's a really good shout on a free hit anyway. So you're gonna cover off that, and then also you'll have him in your team going forward. Liverpool's fixtures are really good for the rest of the season as well. They're not in any of the competitions, so there's not really going to be much rotation. Trent obviously playing in that inverted fullback role into sort of centre mid, whatever you want to call it, means he's much more attacking, as we've seen against Leeds. He's driving through from centre midfield to get the assist for the first one. And then even the second one, because of his position being in that sort of almost, centre mid, defensive mid role, whatever you want to call it, just chipped one forward to Darwin, didn't he? So, yeah, a good chance of points when he's in that role for Trent, and a good pick for the rest of the season now.
It's true. You are stealing a march on people on free hit because obviously we're going to have to get him in future game weeks, whereas he'll already be in for you. Yeah, obviously not a differential, but we're not gonna not talk about Trent in a free hit draft. Okay, Wes, next defender pick. Who have you got?
Yeah, so Alex Moreno from Villa.
Yeah. Nice.
Maybe someone in the comments can either confirm or correct this, but he obviously got the assist for one of Watkins' goals last week. I think he got the assist for the one that was just narrowly offside as well.
He did,
obviously don't get points for that. Yeah, so what that shows is obviously the points potential there. If Watkins would have been just like, an inch further back, or his armpit wasn't offside or whatever it was, then you'd be looking at potentially 2 assists and a clean sheet in that game, which is, you're talking a 15-pointer from a defender. Now, I don't think, and the reason why he is a bit of a differential pick this week is He's probably not going to be in many people's teams because it's Brentford away. People are probably expecting an Ivan Toney goal, which is a decent possibility. But Aston Villa, since Unai Emery took over, have been right up there alongside City and Arsenal as the best team in the league. So their form for a long period of time now has been exceptional. They're getting clean sheets. People like Mings and Moreno picking up points virtually every week now. So, yeah, it's not the best fixture in the world, but equally, Brentford have tailed off a little bit. They didn't score versus, was it Wolves last week? And, yeah, I just think he's an attacking option. The fixture isn't, as well as Brentford have done this year, it's not as if he's away at the Etihad or away at the Emirates or something like that. It's an okay fixture. So, yeah, I like him as an option.
Yeah, I like that shout. Honestly, he's one of the differentials that is close to being in my team. It's just that lack of defensive options, which is kind of concerning me.
Yeah.
And he does have the upside. Obviously, it's a tough fixture, but the upside is there. Most assists out of any defender since the return of the Premier League after the World Cup. And yeah, Tony's a good player. Brentford are good at home. They score often at home, but who knows? Could be a little bit of a haul potential there in Moreno. And that is the reason why I've gone with this man for the final defender. So well, who knows? We don't have to play three at the back, Wes, but I feel like we will.
Go on.
I've gone with Castagna for the final slot. I don't think he's going to be starting for many teams. He might be on some benches, but as I already said with Trent and Ramsdale, I just can't see many clean sheets this week at all. Do you really want to go doubling up on the Palace defence with the likes of Johnston, who is the template goalkeeper pick, and then Mitchell in defence? That is so boring. I hate everything about that. Yeah, you might get 6 points, but come on, let's live a little. Castagna has the upside there, and obviously he doesn't play for a great defence, but Wolves at home is a good fixture. What do you think?
Yeah, Wolves don't score many goals. It's a home fixture. Leicester obviously need to get a result. Castagna's quite high in the predicted points on Hub as well. I tweeted earlier from Hub about the top 3 predicted players from each game, and Castagna was, I think, second to Maddison in that game. And yeah, when I have watched Leicester intently, I remember early on in the season, Castagna especially was really bombing on down that right-hand side and really providing the width out there. So yeah, I do like that as a punt. And also when you're on a free hit, you've got to remember, sometimes a player like Castagna, do you want to bring him in as a transfer for the rest of the season and then be stuck with him and you can't transfer him? You know, it's hard to get rid. Maybe not, but on a free hit, it doesn't matter because it's 1 week. If he blanks, you know, some of the big name defenders will probably blank as well this week anyway.
Yeah.
And like I said, you're not going to be stuck with a Leicester defender long term. It is literally just Wolves at home, which in isolation, like you said, their defence hasn't been great this season, but in isolation, that fixture's fine and you're not stuck with them long term.
So that's the defence. I actually quite like this defence. I think there's a lot of upside here. Obviously, let's forget about Trent because I think he will be in every team. But if you're comparing Moreno and Castagna with Trippier and a Mitchell, I don't think that's that bad of a toss up. It's pretty good. There's a lot of upside there, and you're spending less money as well if budget is a constraint for you. Okay, let's move then into the first midfielder, Wes.
Okay, so I'll put a differential one in straight off the bat, and again a player who's done well over the course of the season, good fixture this week, and a team who are really on the up in terms of their results and their performances. And their underlying stats have gone way up, especially in an attacking point of view. So I'm going to go for Philip Billing.
Nice.
Who has got, I think, 7 goals so far this season, something like that. I haven't got the exact figures in front of me. But yeah, Billing has been a really good shout. And he's obviously a cheap option. So you might be looking at this and maybe you've already got a really strong front 7. Maybe he could just be your bench player, for example. But for this illustration that we're doing, I like having Billing in the starting 11.
Yeah, he's such an interesting player. You watch him play and you think, wow, this guy could be just unbelievably good and play for any team. I don't quite know why he's not at that level because he seems to have all the characteristics of someone that could be, you know, great finisher, really physical, box to box, can play in a number of positions. And I've actually heard that is a lot of the time the reason why he hasn't gone on to that next level is because managers can use him in so many different positions.
Too versatile,
Yeah, exactly. But obviously a great player, and Bournemouth are in great form right now.
Yeah,
I'm gonna throw a little bit of a curveball in for my pick because I think we need to talk about this fixture, right? And I want to get your opinions on how this entire fixture is going to go. I'm going to throw Bowen in there Not the biggest differential, but I mean, I think we can be sure that he's going to be under 10% EO this game week, right?
Yeah, I think that definitely counts for this. I know some people will already be considering him, but he's not like I wouldn't call him a template pick by any stretch of the imagination.
No, I just think yes, Bournemouth have been good recently, and West Ham haven't been as good. But if you were in isolation to take Bowen against Bournemouth in any given week, you'd take that, wouldn't you? You think there's whole potential there. And they are slightly improving over the coming weeks. We need to talk about the midweek game because that's going to be a factor. But how do you see that fixture going in general, Wes? Because I think your opinion on that fixture is how you'll judge your picks, right?
I think there's going to be goals in that game because although Bournemouth have improved a lot lately, the improvement has been in attacking. So they've been getting more goals, but we've seen, they won 3-2 against Spurs, for example. So I think there'll be goals in that. Bowen, West Ham should be in a good place after scoring 2 versus Arsenal against the league leaders. Bowen obviously got a goal in that one. So, yeah, I don't think there's any reason. That's a really good result for West Ham. They need points. So to go to Bournemouth, I think, there could be goals in that one. And if I was going to pick anyone from Bournemouth, Ben Rama's on penalties. But, I still think I'd prefer Bowen for what he offers.
Yeah, I just thought, especially last season, he was in everyone's teams. And he's not regressed insanely. His stats are still decent. He's still quietly having a decent season. Of course, not the same heights that saw him get his England debut, but still, I think he's a nice little pick in there, especially when we're not entirely sure on some other midfield options. All right, who have you got next?
Shall we get Salah in, who's a bit of a
let's get him in.
non-event, but like we've said at the start, we don't want to create a team that is just like a B team free hit where we literally ignore all the best options. We want to get some of the best options dotted into this. And Salah obviously is that with Forest at home, great form, scored 15 goals this season. We know about Salah and, he's got that recent form as well with goals against Man City, goal against Arsenal, 2 against Leeds. So, and he does really well at home as well. So, you don't really want to be going without probably the number 1 captaincy choice this week. It'd be a bit of a too big of a risk to go without him, in my opinion.
Any sort of decision on not captaining him in your mind? For me, it's just like a stonewall. That just has to be a lock.
Yeah, I guess I could consider it more and more. And then when you do start considering captaincy and then you make arguments for players, obviously when you're on a free hit or even if you're not on a free hit, you'll have other players who you could make an argument for because the fact that they're in your team means that you believe in them as an FPL asset to score points. So you could say, Watkins has got really great form. He's only got Brentford, blah, blah, blah. And likewise, Arsenal have got Southampton at home, Martinelli, Saka, Jesus captain. Fine. You can make arguments for that and it could work out, of course. But like you said, it's fairly locked on with Salah. And like in every other game week this season, when Haaland's got an easy fixture, you could always make a case for someone else. But why make that case when you've already got someone who is just the best candidate? That's how I see it. Maybe Salah won't score the most points, but for me, it's locked on, and I'm not wasting too much energy over my captaincy decision this week.
Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, my pick. I'm going to go with. I think this is one of the problems that I'm having in my own team is potentially not covering this fixture from an attacking sense, which is Palace v Everton. Everton is so bad away from home, right? And Palace, ever since Hodgson has come back in, have just been on fire. I don't know what he's done, but maybe he's just said to go out and play with confidence, fellas. Do me proud in my old age. But they're playing phenomenally well right now going forward, and also defensively. And there are a few options in midfield, but I've gone with Elise. Now, Ayew is an option, and he does have the best underlying stats. But I think what a lot of people are forgetting when they look at those stats is that it is actually Jordan Ayew, and he's actually not that prolific. Stats don't tell the whole story.
Exactly, and I think the XG stats maybe favoured Ayew, but when you calculate expected assists as well, I think the likes of Eze and Elise do come out on top in that metric as well. So I think Elise is a great shout. I think Eze will be the most popular choice this week for free hitters. So again, for this illustration, we want to be, we don't want to be. There's no point just doing another video talking about all the sort of template players. So I like Elise. I do like Eze as well. But if you want to go a little bit differential without being silly, like we've already said, you don't want to be putting in some random defensive midfield or something. Elise, this could be the week he actually outscores Eze. So I really like that as a shout for this draft.
I just fancy Elise to be involved in a lot of goals, just because he's their most important creative player. Obviously, we saw him get a ton of assists over the past couple of game weeks.
Yeah,
from corners, from set pieces as well. I just think, if he's probably not gonna score as many goals across the season as the likes of an Eze or even an Ayew, but assist wise, he has so much potential, and in that fixture as well, you're thinking, given Palace's form, that could really be a Hall waiting. So to cover off that Palace attack in some way, I think is actually a differential shout in itself that a lot of people might not do.
I agree.
And what about you? In your draft right now, do you have a Palace forward or midfielder?
Yeah, in my actual draft, which is nowhere near finalised yet, I went for Eze.
Okay, fair enough.
But again, my draft won't be. I'm not trying to be differential in my own team or necessarily trying to be template. I'm just trying to pick where I think the best pick is. And it is when it is such a close decision between the likes of Eze and Olise, I'm not confident that I'm necessarily going to get it right. And I'm not even locked in with Eze. But yeah, current draft I'm just having a look at now does have Eze over Olise, but that's not just. I'm not going to try and convince anyone to change from one or the other. Pick whoever you prefer for your own reasons out of those two. And go for it. But yeah, like you say, I think I would go for one of those two over Ayew, even though Ayew's still doing okay this week. In recent weeks. Yeah,
for me, I'm not sure I'm going to actually have a Palace outfielder, which is it seems a bit risky. I don't know.
It's tough because there's a lot of midfielders that we're going to leave out of this draft.
Yeah,
and there are good options in their own right. So I think, have we got 2 midfield slots left or just
one left? Only one left.
This is tough, and one might have to move to the bench because I wanted to just give a quick shout out to someone like Andreas, who's obviously really cheap. Should you need the budget, if you decide to go for the likes of Kane and Salah, you might need the budget. Andreas, or even Willian. They obviously have Leeds at home, a fixture we haven't really spoke about. Leeds have been shipping goals for fun. Did they lose 5-1 and 6-1 in the last couple of games?
Yeah, 11 goals conceded. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, yeah, again, in my draft, I don't think I'll be able to squeeze in the likes of an Andreas. But, how can we... Surely there's got to be some attacking returns there for Andreas, who's potentially on penalties with Mitrovic out, on virtually every set piece, as we know, over the course of the season. He's got plenty of assists and the odd goal here and there as well. So, yeah, he's going to be an unfortunate player to miss out. But for this draft, I think we should probably... I don't know if we should put... I don't want to obviously put too many template players in there, but I also don't want to ignore the likes of Saka and Martinelli.
Well, I've put Andreas in for now, but I think yes, obviously one of Billing, Elise, Andreas, Bowen is going to be an Arsenal midfielder. You make the decision. Yeah. You decide who do you want to drop for an Arsenal midfielder.
Let's drop Andreas. We gave a little, a bit of information about him. If you need a player like that, go for it. But yeah, for this draft, let's get in. Now, is it Saka or Martinelli for this draft, though? That's the difficult one.
It's up to you.
Maybe Martinelli will be a little bit more differential without being silly, and he has that sort of the better form than Saka in recent weeks. Saka still has penalties, of course. Arteta's backed him despite the miss. But yeah, let's go for Martinelli as someone who isn't differential, but compared to Saka will be a little bit differential. Yeah. And like we've already said, we're not going to get overly silly with this draft.
No, and I think it's worth saying if you do have Saka in your team and you're not on free hit, he's an obvious hold. I've had him for the last 3 game weeks, for a while, but I know the pain, and sometimes you can think to yourself, this guy is just not doing it for me. He's got 1 point or whatever it is over the last 3 game weeks, missing pens, but this game week alone, he's still probably the second best pick that you could possibly choose. I mean, he's up there, isn't he?
Absolutely, yeah, and he's probably going to be my vice captain, which in my own team, which shows that I back him as, like you said, the second best player. Maybe Martinelli again. Martinelli, Saka, Salah are probably the 3 best captain shouts this week. So yeah, absolutely. If you've got Saka and you're not free hitting, hold him. If you are free hitting, you probably do want to include him. But yeah, if you're chasing a bit and you're liking our differentials here, then you could. That is a sort of player you could maybe back against. Hope for a blank there, because everyone is going to have him on free hit, and then you can make a few gains by not having him maybe. But yeah, it's definitely a risk going out without Saka.
Okay then, moving on to the forwards. Now, as it stands, I think we should go for 3 and bench one of our midfielders perhaps. You know what? We can fill out the whole team and then decide on who gets benched later on. So let's just go for 3 that could play. So my first pick here is going to be, to finish off our Liverpool players, Diogo Jota. Now this, I think this is differential because I don't think he's going to be in many free hits at all. I think Gakpo is the one that's now come into a lot of people's thinking. But for me,
or even Robert. Some people are going Robertson.
Yeah, Robert,
well.
exactly.
I think everyone's on Trent and Salah, and then it's kind of a toss up between maybe the likes of a Robertson or even a Van Dijk or a Gakpo in midfield. But yeah, Jota. After he scored midweek, and sorry, carry on.
No, I just say I think structure dependent. This could work for your team if you're confident with your midfield, and you're not entirely sure about the forward options. I don't see a reason why going with Jota over Gakpo is necessarily a bad thing. Jota's been there for longer. Gakpo is obviously in good form right now, but we've seen over seasons that Jota can continue to perform. He's now getting the minutes. Obviously, yes, you'd expect him to be subbed early, but the same as this, you could say the same with Gakpo. And why not go for Jota? I don't necessarily see that as a downgrade from Gakpo at all, if not a more experienced pick.
I feel like with Jota as well, he's a very streaky sort of. When he first joined Liverpool, he had that really good streak.
Absolutely,
he scored against Leeds. He scored against Leeds, didn't he? And then he got a second goal, which was a really well taken half volley from the edge of the area. Posting in, so real confidence to take that on, and a confident finish for his first one as well. And I believe was the assist. There's so many goals in that game.
I honestly do not know. I cannot remember. Everyone seems to be involved about 10 times, but
so he's absolutely a great shout. And I think after that performance, Klopp, because they haven't got to rotate too much because they're not in any of the competitions. I know there's midweek fixtures, but I think he will stick with those Salah, Gakpo, Jota to start with.
Yeah.
And then maybe the likes of Jota and Gakpo only play 70, 75 minutes, maybe. But I think with Darwin Núñez might come on in that centre forward, might sub on earlier for Gakpo in centre forward position, whereas with Jota on the left, he'll probably stay on a bit longer with Luis Diaz probably still not. I can't see Luis Diaz playing 30 minutes. It'll probably be more like 10 or 15. That's not obviously the biggest consideration. Their expected minutes are probably pretty similar. But I really like someone like Jota always involved. I guess the argument for Gakpo is the fact that extra point for the midfielder, and the fact that he's more he's playing in that sort of the number 9 role rather than that sort of wing role. But we've seen with Liverpool over the years, you don't necessarily score more goals in that centre forward position.
Exactly.
It's often the Salah Mane positions of old. It's those wing positions that often do get the goals anyway. So no one could argue that strongly that either way on that one. So again, for this illustration, we're doing a bit more of a differential one. Jota over Gakpo. It isn't silly. It isn't differential for the sake of it. And it could easily work out. It could be the best option.
Yeah, I just think, why not? Gakpo could occupy the centre-backs. Jota could get in behind Nico Williams, who likes to go forward, or whoever's playing in that right-back slot. I think that's an absolutely viable pick. It wouldn't shock you if Jota was the one that came away with the haul and Gakpo had 2-3 points with it. That's all we're saying. Okay, then. Next pick, Wes. Who have you got?
Next pick, again, I'm not sure if this really counts as differential on free hits. I think he'll be relatively popular on free hits, but I don't think he'll be massively owned. So I'll say Solanke, who's been in great form all season long. I heard a stat like he's one of the only couple of players to score an assist in more than one game, or something like that, alongside the likes of a Haaland and a De Bruyne or something like that. So.
Wow.
And the point I'm trying to raise there is, and if you look at how many assists he's got so far this season, he's right up there. So he's actually that double threat, which is what I like that with forwards, because if you get a forward who only scores goals, that's obviously more points than assists, of course. But if you get someone like Solanke who chips in with assists as well, on those occasions where he does get the one goal, but then he chips in with an assist as well, that assist almost guarantees the 3 bonus on top. I know strikers can get the 3 bonus with 1 goal, of course, but if it's 2-0 and Solanke gets goal and assist, for sure he's getting that 3 bonus. If there's another striker in a game who, if Isaac scores a goal in a 2-0 game, the bonus is probably going to the likes of Trippier and defenders. But so that's why I like Solanke. It's the assist threat that we often don't really consider because it doesn't get the headlines. Everyone's talking about Haaland scoring X amount of goals this year, Kane scoring X amount of goals, but if you total the goal contributions from a Solanke, you couple that with it being West Ham at home, and the very recent form as well, then everything adds up to Solanke being a really good pick this week.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I didn't really realise that he has 9 assists this season, and his underlying numbers are still pretty good, right? His expected assists are quite close to his expected goals, which is which is mental for a striker.
Yeah.
But yeah, as you say, if you can double up on those returns, then the bonus is absolutely locked for a player like him.
Yeah, he tends to kind of haul it, like get multiple returns in games in the lesser games as well. Away, his first returns this season were a goal and an assist away at Forest. Then a couple of blanks, but then it was Leicester at home where he got 2 assists. Followed that up with Fulham away, goal and assist. Few single returns, and then again more recently at Spurs, it was the goal and the 2 assists. So yes, he hasn't been prolific this season, but the recent form's good. The assists, and even if he doesn't score, a couple of assists is better than a goal, isn't it? So yeah, at home to West Ham, who, like I said, I think there will be goals in that one. So yeah, I like Solanke as a pick.
Okay, now I think for the final striker spot, we have another Arsenal slot left, but I don't really want to go with Jesus. It's a bit boring, right? So we'll forgo him for now. I think if you were doing this 100% seriously, yes, you would have triple Arsenal, but who knows? We could throw a defender in there. Could double up on the defense. Yeah. To make this a bit more fun, I'm going to give some options to you.
Okay.
I'm going to give you 3 options, and then you can decide. Okay. So, first option is the man that I was going to put in, which is Isak. For me, I think is a great option if you really think that game is going to be a win for Newcastle. I think he's going to be involved. They're so good at home, St James's Park. Tottenham in bad form defensively. They seem to be crumbling. I don't know if they seem to have down tools slightly, but I really do think Newcastle win that game, and that is the reason why you're not seeing Kane in a lot of actual drafts. That's one option. The next option I've got for you is Vinicius from Fulham. Okay. Now this is the true meaning of differential. Now we've already spoken about Andreas and Willian. If you want to get involved in that fixture from an attacking sense, I don't know if he will necessarily start. He should, but it's a very, very out there shout.
That is super differential.
It is super differential. And the last person I've gone for, we're gonna forget about Watkins because I think that's a bit too obvious. Is a man right here who has quite high predicted points for the next 5 game weeks. It's Brennan Johnson against the leaky Liverpool, who knows do leak goals, might concede. And if you want to go completely differential and back the fact that you don't think Liverpool will keep a clean sheet and therefore go against the likes of Trent and especially Robertson, Johnson could be the man. So what do you think? You choose out of them 3.
I think out
or
of
someone
those
else,
3,
by the way.
I would go with, again, like you've already said, the likes of Watkins and Jesus are a very good legitimate picks for a more your standard free hit draft. But on this differential one, yeah, let's avoid them. Otherwise, like we've already said, we're talking about the same old faces. So yeah, with Vinicius, I'm kind of, the fixtures there for him. He's obviously guaranteed to start with Mitrovic out, but I'm so anti him because of his lack of returns, I guess. And with Brennan Johnson, I liked Johnson at one stage of the season, especially when they had okay fixtures, because if you look at where he gets his goals, it's all against teams outside the top 6 and mainly at home as well. But because if it was Forest at home to Liverpool, I wouldn't hate it as much. And I definitely don't, I'm not going to rave about Liverpool's defence at all because we know how leaky they have been. But yeah, with Johnson, with Forest, as bad as Liverpool have been defensively, I just feel like Forest away have been awful as well. I think they've only scored a few goals away from home or something all season long. So that's why I would avoid him. And I'd probably have to, out of those 2, I'd say Isak. He's in my actual team, Isak. Before I've had him for a few weeks now. I really like him. He's got me a couple of goals in that time. I'm now a bit worried about free hitting him out because it's always frustrating when players you free hit out. You see Tottenham at home, you think there's probably better fixtures out there, and there might not be a space for him in my team. I'll have a think about that. But yeah, I really like Isak. I do agree with everything you said about Newcastle at home. I am expecting a Newcastle win, but I have taken out the likes of Trippier and Isak out my team. So
okay, no Trippier in your team is an interesting one. That is interesting.
I don't think he'll make it. There's a legitimate shout to keep the likes of Trippier though, because obviously of how good Newcastle are at home, how good Trippier has been all season long and stuff like that. But yeah, to get back to the question, out of those 2, let's pop in Isak. We're gonna have to bench one of these front 8 anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, let's put in Isak and maybe bench the likes of Billing or an Andreas.
The thing I think there are some, like there's a haul there for somebody. If I'm thinking about other players the likes of Iheanacho against Wolves. You know, who knows? Leicester could turn it on. This is probably it's definitely the most important game of their season so far. It could be the most important game of the season, full stop.
Yeah.
It feels like an absolute must win.
Isak's a strange one. And we haven't spoken about Maddison either, who might kind of... Maddison's gone from being a popular pick. He's blanked so many times that everyone's kind of shipping him out. But with Wolves at home, Maddison or Iheanacho could do well. Don't know fully. With Iheanacho, every time he seems to play well, he doesn't necessarily start the next game. So I don't know about that.
It's so weird.
He scored against City, didn't he? He then hit the post. He could have... He was very much involved there. And there's been games like that where he's been really involved. I think away at Leicester, he got a really big return. But yeah, I don't know. His minutes, Wolves aren't shipping loads of goals. They've definitely improved since their new manager came in as well. So just because Leicester are home to Wolves, I think if that was sort of pre-Christmas, I'd be saying, load up on Leicester players. But as of right now, I'm a bit wary. I think maximum one, either Maddison or Iheanacho, definitely not both on a free hit.
And then there's also, we've talked about the Palace fixture, the likes of Edouard. If you think he's going to start and Palace are going to go crazy, he could be a decent pick. Or maybe even an Antonio. There are quite a few number 9s, I guess is what I'm trying to say, that have decent fixtures but haven't been in great form.
Yeah.
It could go crazy this week. Who knows? And
again, they are okay as a 1 week punt. What I always, my sort of, not flaw, but my sort of mistake after making an FPL manager is I'm so used to thinking long term. I never make a short term transfer. It's always, I bring a player in who's got double game weeks coming up later down the line or 6 good fixtures or whatever it is. You never really pick over the whole season. You never do just a 1 week transfer unless it's just before a wild card or in game week 38. But even then, it's only one transfer. But to do a whole team just based on that one fixture list. And again, my parameters for selecting FPL players in most weeks is like, is this player going to lose his place in the team? Is he nailed on for the next? Is he going to play virtually 90 minutes for 6 game weeks in a row? Whereas we don't actually have to think about that right now. And you can take punts on those players who I always kind of, sort of injury prone players or rotation risk players like Iheanacho. I always know that, hang on a minute, if I get him now, 4 or 5 weeks down the line, I'm going to have to ship him out and it's going to be possibly a -4 down the line. Whereas on a free hit, you don't have to worry about that. So you can take those risks if you want to. If it goes wrong, game week 33 rolls around, your proper team's back and you just forget all about it. That's just sort of a reminder to myself and to everyone listening that really try and focus in on this is just a 1 game week team. It doesn't, some of the rules of, the rules I impose on myself for FPL transfers don't apply as much. Like I've already said, the sort of nailed on this, the reliable factor over a longer term doesn't matter. Who's good who could explode on a 1 week punt, and then they have to be considered.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm going to fill in the. Well, do we want to do the final 3 players? We won't do it. We won't do it. Let's just fill these players in because
pop in Tim Ream from.
Okay.
Just a cheap defender, someone like Ream, decent fixture, someone for our benches. And as we've got a spare defender, we might have a spare Arsenal spot, so we might have to put in Ben White or something.
Oh, sorry, that's actually a very good point. We do have a spare Arsenal spot. Ben White. Yeah.
But remember, everyone, we've tried to be at least sort of 70% differential with this team, which is why we've got the likes of Salah in, etc. But not everyone's going to be different sort of template.
Absolutely. Okay, I've put Everson in goal as well, just because we're going to start Ramsdale. Obviously, he's got good fixture, but we know we're not going to play him. Okay, so this is how the team is looking. Now, I want you to make a decision.
Yeah.
Who are we benching out of our 8th attacker? Before we get onto that, Tim Ream, according to the Fantasy Football Hub My Team tool, has more predicted points than Moreno this week.
Yeah, so I think that'll be due to the fixture, won't it? That'll be more, I guess, because the bread and butter for defenders is clean sheets rather than those attacking returns, and Brentford are probably, the likes of Tony, maybe more likely to score, and especially it's a home fixture as well for Tim Ream. So, yeah, if you want that decent shout for a clean sheet, I don't mind Tim Ream. I think he's got the odd attack, maybe the 1 goal this season as well. I can't remember fully. So, yeah, again, he's a bit of a boring pick. He's a little bit of a boring pick. Moreno is definitely a sexier pick. But yeah, predicted points models will like the fact that he's probably more likely to get a clean sheet than Moreno. Based on the opposition anyway, based on the team, Villa's form is obviously far superior to Fulham's, which has to be taken into account as well. So it's a tricky one to call, that one.
However, both of them are dwarfed by Ben White, who realistically we would play over probably Moreno and Tim Ream. Let's get on to the 8th attacker now. Right now, Jota's on the bench. I don't think he's going to stay there. Who are we going to bench out of those 8 attackers?
I think get Jota in and bench. Did we keep Billing and Andreas?
So we've not got Andreas. We went with Elise in the end. But
yeah, bench Billing. Bench
okay.
Billing. We don't want double Bournemouth attack, I don't think. And Solanke, although Billings actually scored more goals than Solanke this season, I still, like I said, I do like the fact that Solanke can pop up with a goal and an assist in one game. And he had a really good, if we're taking recent form into consideration, he had a really good performance against Spurs with that goal and 2 assists. And they're proper assists as well, where he actually passes it to a teammate in a box. It's not as if he's just got, those random lucky ones where they sort of pass it on the halfway line and someone does a worldie or something like that. Or like been fouled for a penalty or shot from distance, which is obviously a legitimate way to get assists. But yeah, these are creative passes through balls for the players to score from.
Yeah. Also, that will get you more bonus points as well. A shot that is saved and then that leads to an assist. You're not getting a big chance created bonus point for that.
Good knowledge there. That is very good knowledge. I like that.
There you go. It could make all the difference in points.
Yeah.
I think bonus points are sometimes slept on because all it takes is a player going from 80 to 90% pass completion, and that can be 3 points worth of difference, which is a big thing.
No, it is a big thing. And there's always players like, if you compare someone like Martinelli and Odegaard, if in an Arsenal, I'm not saying this should factor into consideration too much, but I know for a fact if Arsenal win 2-1, Odegaard scored, Martinelli scored, no assists, just for example.
Yeah.
Guarantee Odegaard is way ahead of Martinelli on the bonus points. Same for someone like Salah, doesn't do very well on it historically. Those sort of central midfielders who just keep the ball moving on. Pascal Gross is another one. I remember a game earlier on in the season, he just got the 1 goal and he absolutely battered the bonus, like 40 odd points or 50 odd on that system. Someone like Kane's very good as well, doesn't get caught offside that much, doesn't give the ball away that much. So yeah, these players who are good at bonus, that when you do just get the 1 return from them, it's likely to be worth more than that. We saw it actually in the Arsenal game just gone. Odegaard 1 goal, 3 bonus. So yeah, certain players are better for bonus, so it is worth knowing.
Yeah, it's sometimes when I think to myself, have I gone too far down this FPL rabbit hole? In the past, when I didn't know about really understand the bonus point system, I was hoping that my picks would get assists or score goals. And now when I'm looking on the stats mid watching the game and I'm seeing that they're just 1 pass away from getting into the 90% category, which gives you 2 more bonus points than 80%, I'm thinking, can you just complete a pass? Which is, maybe it's a little bit too far, but that's the level. That is the level. Okay, this is the team.
It's
then.
definitely. Sorry, just to say one last thing. It's definitely, if you are considering between, say, 2, if in future in FPL or any game week, if you are tossing up between player X and player Y, and there's nothing to really differentiate between them, that extra little thing, maybe you're trying to find the perfect defender from a team or something, and there's not much in it in terms of their attacking threat or whatever. So then the thing you should turn to is who's more likely to get that bonus if there is a clean sheet. Is it a Tarkowski or is it a Coleman? I've used those on purpose because obviously no one's talking about them as just an example. So yeah, knowing the bonus is a nice little way of getting an edge over people who don't really pay attention to it.
It's true though. Someone that's good for baseline bonus, that's often that's an assist's worth of difference. It can be from 2 players who have done in theory the return in theory the same in an individual game. Okay, then this is the team, and what I like about this is that yes, it doesn't have as high of a predicted points as other drafts that we've seen or the more template drafts, but it's not that far away, right? Predicted points 67. Game week rating of 91%. So it's still doing very well on the model. The drafts that we've seen before this have predicted points of about 72, 73. So for the sake of 5 predicted points, for someone that's really chasing in their mini league, is a team like this viable? If you chuck a Jesus in there, for example, over a Ben White, or you put a Kane in, for example, if you have the money here, if you put a Kane in over a Jota and instead go a little bit more template, you're getting quite close to that top line of predicted points anyway. How differential do you think you should go on a free hit if you're really looking to chase in a mini league?
I think if you are massively chasing, you should be watching this video and then coming up with not necessarily using this draft, but you should be using the thought process that we've had of, right, let's not be silly and completely avoid all the great picks and go for just like completely wild picks. But let's be sensible about this and take some calculated gambles. The perfect one earlier that you said about Jota over Gakpo.
Yeah.
Then the likes of Martinelli over Saka, or getting someone like Solanke. And Solanke is a very good pick this week, but he's not going to be in everyone's team. And then, like I said, with this draft, if I was to seriously do it and be chasing, maybe I would put in a Saka and a Jesus. I'd tweak it slightly, but I would go for something along these lines where they're really good picks, but they're just not everyone's. They're not the most popular picks. And again, Olise versus Eze is another perfect example of that.
Yeah,
there's not a huge difference in it, and maybe Olise is the one who comes away with the points this week, rather than who got the points last week, Eze. So you're not like taking some wild. It's not a double game week where everyone's captaining Haaland and you're just like not having Haaland. It's Olise over Eze. It's not crazy different, but it could work out. And if it doesn't work out, it's likely not going to ruin your season. If Eze does outscore Olise for an example. So yeah, if you want to be differential, do it. Cover the main good players that you need, the likes of Salah, and then just make some tweaks to it. And then all of a sudden, your team's still decent and can still compete with these template teams and could even potentially outscore it as well.
I think that's a great point because if you're choosing someone like an Olise over an Eze, you have the upside there, but also where's the risk really? Like, you're not going to say, as you said, that Eze does outscore Olise by a goal or whatever. That's not going to massively damage your rank. In terms of going crazy risky, this has got a lot of differentials in it, but it's not that risky, is it really? I mean, all the players are good on paper, and where could you really go too wrong? The main thing that you're lacking here in terms of moving away from the actual template is Kane and Trippier, who aren't in a lot of free hit drafts anyway. You said that neither are in yours.
Kane's definitely not in mine. Trippier, I don't think will be unless I don't.
So that's the risk right there, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, free hitting. There's a potential for at the end of the game week, even the template free hit team has actually been outscored by just regular teams who have kept the likes of who will be, if you're not free hitting, you're obviously not taking out players who have a fixture this week. Essentially, you're keeping anyone who has a fixture. So there's definitely a risk on a free hit, but I don't want to play a free hit where I'm just like out of some sort of fear, keeping just covering off all the sort of highly owned players. It's one game week, go for it. Kane away at Newcastle, I'm not going to be surprised if he scores, but at least if he scores, it wipes out the Newcastle clean sheet. Likewise for Trippier, if it's 1-0 to Newcastle and Trippier gets a 9-pointer, then Kane's blank. So I'm not going to play with any sort of fear. I'm not going to begrudge the likes of Kane and Trippier getting some points or be that surprised. It can happen, but there's better potential out there from the other players, like with the draft we picked, or even the more template sort of free hit draft as well.
And there we go. That's going to do it for this one, guys. If you do want to see Wes's actual team, now I don't believe that Wes, we've swayed you enough in this video to go with this draft, but who knows? You might have some interesting picks in there. I mean, no Kane and no Trippier is differential. That's just a fact. If you do want to see that, check out the website, link down below. Your final team will be posted before the deadline, which is on Friday at 6:30, coming up pretty soon. Yep. And I'm interested to see who you go for. Wes, thank you very much. It's been a very insightful video. It's put the fun back in FPL, which I love, because
that's what it's all
players
about.
Players like give me Solanke, give me a Castagna, give me an Andreas, give me a Tim Ream. That's what I want to see in my team. Thank you very much as always, guys. And Wes, how many points? Final question. Are you getting this game week?
71.
And there we go. I wanted to hear 150, but 71, I guess, is middle of the road. Guys, thanks as always, and we'll see you next week for the next game week.